Greetings, this is Tom of the Mary Janes. I'm sitting here in Weber Labs making a tutorial on how to use hydrogen drums, the H2 drum kits, and these are drums that you can then export into your digital audio workstation and use in your projects, use for anything. It's a great sounding and easy to use, very versatile, and you can get it from hydrogen-music.org/downloads for free. Ain't that great? So you download it, you install it, and it looks just like this. I've got a brand new project started, and all the defaults are here. Basically, what happens is you have songs and you have patterns. Songs are made of patterns, and along the top, where all these this grid full of boxes is, we have this song. A song has all these various patterns. Now you can edit a pattern by clicking on it, and then here in the bottom part of the screen, where you have this series of lines, that's a timeline for your pattern. Pattern is made of a drum kit and its individual instruments, which go down the left column. So this is a drum kit that came with hydrogen, and I'm going to change it to one I like better. We do that over here, the instrument rack, by clicking Sound Library, and I like the Black Pearl. If I right-click this, it gives me an option to load. I'm going to say load, and we'll see our drum kit change from GM kit to the Black Pearl. Much better sounds, in my humble opinion. Now I'm going to get rid of the instrument rack because we are done with it. By clicking that, it toggles it off. All right. Beats per minute are determined in this window here. You got to set your beats per minute because your song has to go at the tempo that you want. By double-clicking that, you get a little window that pops up. It allows you to edit the beats per minute. I'm changing it from 120 to 160 because I know that works for my purposes. Do you have purposes? I have purposes. Anyway, after you've got your beats per minute going on, you can monitor a pattern when this is clicked, and you can monitor the entire song when this is clicked. When you're monitoring the song, you're monitoring this top timeline, and this arrow tracks where you're going. You add patterns to your song by clicking in these boxes, and that's how you make a song. I'm just going to leave this one here for right now. That brings me to the you can move your instruments up and down. Now that I've got my drum kit selected, I want to set it up the way I like. And right now, it's not the way I like. I'm going to go like this so I can see more of my instruments temporarily here. I like kick on top. I don't use the side stick very often. I get out of there. Clap, same thing. Never use it. But I do use these snares. So kick, snare, rim shot. Before my floor toms, I like to put my my hi-hat sounds, and I'm always using the closed hi-hat closed sound. And I'm just looking for it. There it is. I'll move that up. Hi-hat pedal would be another one I use a lot. Move that up, like so. Hi-hat semi-open, hi-hat open, hi-hat swish, hi-hat choke. 6 different hi-hat sounds. When you export those into your digital audio workstation, you probably want to group those together, pan them to the same place, and make sure that the levels make the listener think that they're hearing one hi-hat symbol, even though you have to use 6 to get the sounds you want in this program. Now I like my toms, tom 1, tom 2, my floor tom. Cowbell, get out of here. I do like the cowbell, but I almost never use it. After my toms, I like my crash. There's my crash flink. I'll move that up. My ride, bell flink, splash choke. That's pretty much it. I like them in that order because I always know where they are, and it saves me a little time. So we can readjust this. I don't know if we're going to use 10 patterns, so I'm just going to go down like there to pattern 6. So yes, you can move instruments up and down. The default size here is 8. The default resolution is 64. Actually, it usually is 32, but I like it set to 64. When your size is 8, you only get 4 beats. For me, that's just not enough. I want a pattern to go 8 beats. For what I do, it works out better. Sometimes you need a pattern with 4 beats. And when you do, you change it. So you click on that, you get a little down arrow that produces a menu with numbers from 1 through 30. I'm selecting 16. As you can see now, we've got 8 beats. You can hit this plus and minus sign down here, and you can't really plus it very much. Oh yeah, you can actually. You can minus it and it gets smaller. You can plus it, it gets bigger. I just wanted to go right to there. That's perfect because I get all 8 beats. And that is my size and resolution thing. Like I said, if you click project here, you get an option to export song. That's how you get what you produce out of here. It comes out in the form of WAV files. It gives you the option to do 41.1 at 16 bits, 48 at 24 bits, a bunch of different varieties of output files. That's for WAV files. There's other options. I use WAV files at 48 and 24. You can also opt to export a single track, which will give you a stereo mix of everything that you've done here, the whole song. Or you can choose to export individual tracks, which gives you a separate WAV file for each instrument in your drum kit for the entire song. That's recommended. There's also an option to do both. I typically do both. Sometimes I'll start recording my other parts against just the stereo mix that I had and worry about getting into the details of mixing my individual drum instruments later, once I have more stuff to work with and I know how everything's going to sit together. So again, that is done from the project menu export song option, and that's exporting. But you got to have something to export. I'm going to take pattern 1, I'm going to make my very first pattern, and in my case it's always a count in, like an 8 count on the hi-hat. So you put that up front before the song actually starts, so everybody who's recording on your song after the drum is recorded knows when the first beat is, and everyone can come in together. No surprises, no guessing. I'm going to right-click this pattern, and it'll give me an option to edit properties. And properties just includes the name. I'm going to change my name from pattern 1 to hat 8 because it's 8 beats on the hi-hat. That's all I want to do. So now that hat 8 is selected, I'm going to edit it down here in the pattern editor. And I'm going to get my hi-hat pedal on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Look what happens if we change the resolution from 64 to 32. You have less options per beat. And this works for plenty of stuff, but if the math gets crazy and you got to try to fit 5 into 4 and other weird stuff like that, it's actually much better to have more resolution. But if you have bad eyes and you don't need that much resolution, this makes it a whole lot more easier to hit the thing the first time because they're easier to see, simply put. And so I'm going to go back to 64. I just wanted to demonstrate that. And again, when you click that little down arrow, you get a menu with 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and a whole bunch of other ones. And I'm just going to go back to 64, and now I have more vertical lines between beats. So let's monitor this pattern we just made. It's a simple 8-beat intro count in on the hi-hat. All right, and it will keep on repeating. It's on a loop, and that's what patterns do. They loop. They assume that you're going to edit it on the fly, and you don't want to have to keep on going back and hitting the play button, because how long is 8 beats going to last? It's not very long, and it would drive someone crazy. So that's made. I'm going to make my next pattern, and it's going to be my basic pattern. A good way to go here is to make a basic pattern that you can then copy to add other instruments to it and embellishments to it, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. First, I'll change the name by right-clicking, same properties, changing pattern 2 to basic, and save, and now it's basic. So I want to edit my basic track. I'm getting back to 16 on my resolution, on my size. Resolution's already at 64. Pretty much here's where your knowledge of how to play drums comes in. I want my kick on 1. I want my kick on 5. I want my hi-hat on 2, closed. And on 3, we're going to have my snare. And another hi-hat on 4. I'm going to just repeat that. And let's see how that pattern sounds. We have basic highlighted. And so when we hit play on pattern, we'll hear this pattern. And that's pretty much it. That's your basic pattern. We can copy this by right-clicking and selecting copy. It gives you a dialog and lets you change the name of the copy. It suggests basic number 2, but I'm going to change it to basic crash, because all I'm going to do here is add a crash symbol on the first beat. So there is my copy, basic crash. Here it is. It's an identical copy of basic, to which I just add crash on the very first one. So we have our hat 8 intro. We're going to have 2 basic patterns and then a basic crash pattern. I'm going to make a copy of basic crash. I'm going to name it basic crash splash, because I think I need another one of these that has a crash on 1 and a splash on 5. And it's exactly what I'm going to do here. There it is our basic with our crash. And we're going to beat number 5. I'm going to add splash. Let's hear that pattern. Awesome. So our song so far is hat for 8, 2 basics, a basic crash splash. I'm going to take my basic crash and make a copy of it again. And I'm going to call it basic crash toms, because I'm adding tom-tom fills in this one. I'm going to drag it down below where I was before, or I don't want it to be below pattern 3. All right, so basic crash toms. To this one, I need a little more room here. Okay, this is a copy of basic with the crash, but I'm going to add my tom-toms. Beat 3 gets tom 1, beat 5 gets tom 2, beat 7 gets the floor tom. Let's hear that pattern. All right, not too shabby. I'm going to jazz it up a little bit because that's kind of boring. Right before this second tom 2, I'm going to add an additional tom 1 right here. I'm going to add an additional tom 2 right before this floor tom right here. I'm going to add another floor tom on 8. So let's hear it now. That's pretty swank. I like it. One thing you can do with these drum instruments is change the velocity. That is how hard it would appear to a listener the drum was hit. I want this one just before the floor tom 2 on beat 5 to be a little less. Same thing with this one on tom 2, a little less. And now let's hear it again, see if we can tell the difference. I can hear the difference. Anyway, we want one more, and we'll put that, we want to move this down. No, we don't need to move that down. Let's make another copy of basic, and we'll call this basic ride. I'm editing it to rename it, and then when I save it, you'll see it pop up. Basic ride. I want that to come down here, and all it is the basic pattern with ride cymbals throughout. A lot of times when there's an instrumental solo, the drums will play the ride cymbal, and it's a well-known and almost expected thing to do. So I'll make them on every beat. I like adding the bell so it's not so monotonous, right? Whoops, get on the right beat there. Okay. Let's hear that pattern. I'm going to use some dynamics here too. I'm going to pull down the velocity on some of these guys. Like 1 and 5 are your accents typically, so I'll leave those up and I'll pull the rest of these down. And I can do the same for the bell. Down a little. I'll leave that one full strength and this one down some. All right, let's hear that pattern now. That sounds more natural, less monotonous. So that's that. Now I've got all the patterns I really think I'm going to want. Hat 8, basic, crash, clash with splash. Going to ride as though we're having a guitar solo. We'll let that whole thing end. Well, we'll just do it like so. We'll come back into the lyrics and the second verse or whatever it might be with a crash, and we'll continue with a crash splash, and then we'll go back into the toms. 2 of those. Now we need one more. When the song ends, typically it ends with everyone playing one big loud bump all together. Dun 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 dun. Bump. That bump. We have to have a pattern for that, and all it does is put stuff on the one beat and let it ring out. So that's what I'm going to do with pattern 3. I'm going to click the properties from the right click menu and just call it end and save it. And on the end, I like that to be a size of 16 because you're going to have cymbals in there, and those will ring out, and it takes sometimes many seconds for the cymbal to decay and finally die away. All those harmonics, all that sustain, all that reverb, you want to capture that. That's called the tail, and you want to have that. And if you have a size of 8, you only have 4 beats, and your cymbals might not be done ringing, and you want to catch all of the tail. So I give it 8, and it assures that I get that. So here on this pattern that I'm creating, just to make the end of the song, all we want is kick on 1, give it a nice strong rim shot, I'll give it crash and splash. And as you might expect, it sounds like this. All right, well, we're done. We're going to monitor the song. I'm going to take a quick moment to save this guy. You can't see any of this, unfortunately, because actually I don't need to save it. I have one already saved. This is just for tutorial purposes. Let's hear the song. I clicked song. My arrow showed up. It's going to go along this top timeline. And we're going to get about 39 seconds or 40-something, 42 seconds of stuff. Here comes. Basic intro. Intro to the song. Now here comes the first verse. Singing, singing, singing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Guitar solo. Yay. All right. Solo's over. Let's get back into the second verse. And we're singing the second verse. Yeah. And all right. And we're ending. You can tell And we're out of here. It's a very simple, like 42-second song. Of course, your song may vary. And of course, you could add these patterns any way that suits you. It's pretty simple. Once you're at this point, if you've got it the way you like it, you click Project, you select Export Song, and you get WAV files, and you just drag those into your audio workstation. And that's it for my tutorial. If you want to ask questions about this, email me, tom@themaryjanes.com. Thanks and goodbye.